on.
Welcome back to the Extracted podcast. My name is Shannon Boyles, and I am here with the lovely and talented Jared Iwi for Season 2, Episode 1, Jared Iwi.
Yeah, and I loved episode 1, Shannon Boyles.
It was a little intense.
It was a lot. I've got those images, you know, and it only, my respect, I didn't think it'd grow any further for this woman, but it has.
Yeah, it's a lot. And for folks that might have, seen that I apologize in advance. But
My shout out to my Aunt Jeep,
yes,
who listened and was like, whoa.
Yeah. We love Aunt Jeep.
Yeah, we do.
She sent some love on Facebook, and I had a moment where I clutched my pearls. Jared, why are we doing this podcast?
Well, it's called Extracted because from each other we are extracting stories that otherwise might just stick back in our emotional craw and we not do anything about them except for the occasional breakdown at a hardware store and we're wondering exactly what's going on, or an emotional outburst in traffic. You get suddenly insanely angry at the stick figure family on the minivan in front of you. And if you just take time to write down these stories, not only is it good for you mentally and emotionally, perhaps spiritually, but it's also a great way to organize the stories you need to tell.
Right. It's like a giant emotional dump, and you feel so much better afterwards. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm like a new after I do, like I'm Jared right now, but after putting this together and getting it out there, I'm like Jared with bells. Jared with bells,
and I'm always like 10 pounds lighter and filled with glee because I've been giggling with you for
filled with glee
this whole time. And, we're gamifying it.
It is gamified. And Shannon's still up 2-0.
I'm still winning. And I mean, not to rub it in or anything, but,
it's okay.
No one's had an edit recently.
No. And, maybe that's a learning process. You and I hadn't done a lot of broadcasting in a minute.
Right.
We're very giddy. I think you come out of the gates giddy.
Giddy. Always.
And I immediately, so this is how the gamification works. If anybody has to request an edit, not cosmetically for the show, which we really don't do,
right?
But if they have to request an edit because of something they said they feel could, if our constitution isn't strong enough not just to go to bed instead of thinking about what we've said, and we request an edit, well then a point is awarded to the other person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So she has 2 points because I was lying awake.
However, last night, you once again were the big winner.
Yeah.
Because as we've discussed in previous episodes, the Moth Denver May theme of snooping was last night at Swallow Hill. And our man Jared Iwi won!
Thank you. I am 5 for 5. And I got to tell you, my buddy Kat Atwell gets so much credit because she's been inviting me to this for years.
Yes.
And I would say, I just don't feel great. Which brings me, I'm going to remind me about the great piece of advice okay. And I would be like, nah. I'd get nervous or whatever, I wouldn't feel it. And I'd have so many stories in my head. I was like, I don't want to go through that filtration process.
Right.
But taking that time and then going there and winning the first one, and then the Grand Slam. And I don't like talking about the winning part, but I'm in a couple ways. One, I'm trying to be modest, I guess, which I don't think is modest if you're trying to be modest. I think
but you and I are not people that normally have a lot of confidence, so
True.
It's great to see you do this.
Yeah, ask me about self-doubt here a second, too. There's other things, but maybe that's another episode. But anyway,
tease.
I finally feel okay saying, like, I won this thing.
Yes. Say it again.
I won this thing.
Okay.
I could say it many times.
Last night you did what?
I won it.
You what?
Yeah, and I got to say that I have had one MC who's done it every time I've won, except there was a new MC last night.
Okay.
And somebody I don't even know who said it looked like I lost weight, which is a weird compliment, but yeah. And
keep that shit
she just said, you're really good. I can't wait to see you. And then you look like I've lost weight. I'm like, wow, it's weird that my weight has been on your mind. I wanted to say the same thing to you. I was like, yeah, you too. You were like a bazooka.
Or don't you want to be like, you really look like hell. What happened?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, what dragged you and through what?
God.
So anyway, but we were talking about which MC we liked, and they're both very good. But I said I haven't seen this one tonight, and she just jokingly said, "Oh, a different MC. Maybe it's not your night." And so that's in my head, and it's dumb. I'm like, no, that's silly.
But it rattles your cage.
But that guy at the end of the night came up to me. He said, "Oh, congratulations." He didn't really know me at all he goes, "Have you won this before?" And then Kat Atwell said, "He's won them all," and he was very impressed by that. For me, the winning is that I don't write these stories down, but I get them in my head.
Yep.
And then I record while I'm on stage so I can hear what that story sounds like in a crowd-pleasing way.
When they laughed.
Yeah.
All of the... Sorry.
No, that's good. No, go ahead. We're just organic, girl.
Yeah, right.
It's okay.
We're flowing. I meant like when you listen to the audience responses, like it almost becomes like quantifying data where you're like, okay, if I do this and do that, and then let me listen,
Well, if you know the story well enough, a lot of people are under the impression that, say, their favorite comic doesn't prepare. Robin Williams, whatever.
Right.
Not only did he notoriously prepare, but he stole a lot of comedy too. But when you know your material well enough, then you can live inside it. Like it was parachute time for us Gen X kids in the gym. Remember the parachute day in gym and how wonderful it was? You're in there just flitting about.
Right.
And that's what happens when I know the story so well, because you've already heard it on this podcast. What was that, episode 2?
Yes.
But that your rote part of your brain goes to bed because you don't want that awake there. You don't want to try to remember things there. You want the creative side, the side that screws with you in your dreams.
The brilliant side.
Yeah. Do you know why it screws with you in your dreams? Because you're so lame when you're awake. And I'm talking to me too. No. That's when you go to that's what I've told myself. It's like, because my brain's like, okay, what are we going to show them tonight? I don't know. We're going to show them naked dinosaurs and having anal gland issues. Because it's so sad that you're
How
not...
did they do that with their little arms?
Yeah, and
no wonder they were mad.
Exactly. Yeah, very angry, eating iguanodons, and everything ate iguanodons. But you get the rote part down so that when you're on stage, you can just have fun parachute Gen X kid time,
right? And improvise a bit.
And you, all of a sudden, like last night, I'm on stage, and there's these lines I hadn't even thought of that are coming out. Or winning it for me, essentially. And it's cool because there's a part of me that's standing there watching it like, oh, wow, oh, good job.
Oh, that's
wow.
So cool.
Because when I first started doing comedy, I wasn't writing anything. I wasn't thinking of jokes. And that's when I was the best. And then people would come and see me more and more when I was thinking about it more and more. And they're like, oh, that was okay, But... I've probably gone on too long.
No, this is like, am like...
I'm going to put in the titles, skip forward. But, yeah.
No, don't you do that. I am so happy and like, I'm kind of almost emotional because as we've been friends for 30 years and we're born on the same day. But to hear you say that conveys a sense of trust in yourself that you know your material well enough to do that. And that when these lines come out and you're like, damn, that was good. That you can recognize that. I mean, that's huge.
Well, I appreciate it. So I'm going to get it up. And well, anyway, the book is coming together. I mean, so today I'm listening to Fresh Air, and this guy's talking about this book he's written, and it's my life. His mom died of cancer when she was 54. Mine did too. He took her to the end. I did too. And this guy's talking about it, and I love him so much for doing it. I'm like, oh my God, I could...
Right. Yes. And I'm glad that it's not that you needed to be motivated, but it's given you another leveled up of inspiration and motivation.
Mm-hmm. No, yes.
I mean, it's incredible. And what I love the best is like you just show up and you're Jared and you're winning these amazing storytelling contests. And it's more validation that you are doing what you're meant to be doing.
Yeah, it's really cool, like how it's sold out and like people are scalping tickets outside the place.
Oh my God.
It's weird. There's so many storytelling contests and some die, but some... Talk about stick-to-itiveness. I talked to one of the producers on the show a couple months ago. She's been there 25 years. Like, that's how long they've been pushing this thing up a hill. So...
Wow.
And now it's just a beast where people show up with content. Just give them content for free. I pay to give them content. But it's great. It's a good forum.
I mean, it's been great. And I'm so proud of you. Congratulations again for winning last night. And as we said, season 2, episode 1, Jared Iwi, this is your episode. Do you have a year in mind you want to get into?
Well, I don't know. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go sexy? You want to go violent? Do you want to go...
Is there a hybrid?
Fred Savage, probably everything.
Fred Savage?
Fred Savage Wonder Years monologue.
I mean, tell me what you're feeling.
I think, okay, there's this interesting... I think 1992 is really good. And I'm going to do a weird comparison here, but 9/11. 9/11 to me was just a loss of innocence. And it didn't help that people politicized it and turned it into a muckraking event. But we did come together for a little bit, and there was this loss of innocence. And I think everybody experiences that in their life. And in 1992, I was 17, and so much was happening. So much that probably had been happening for a long time, but I was just waking up to it. I had an advantage in that, and some people won't see it as an advantage, but I had been in this affair with my high school teacher.
Right.
And she, to her credit, took time. She took time to like help cultivate the writer and help me see things. And weird, I know.
I'm
it's
not
like,
judging.
But people will like. I've told this story publicly twice, and people were upset.
17 is your year from being considered an adult.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, we kind of it was so that,
and you're very mature.
and so I think a whole other episode will be when we went to Mexico together for 3 weeks, and that turned into it was insane. That was kind of like this weird honeymoon thing that. And I'll give you all the details on that. That's a whole episode.
Another tease.
Oh my God. So, but anyway, so there's all this happening where I have this weird affair going with this teacher, who's giving me all the literature to read. And I mean, the reason I know you was because of her.
I know.
I was going to go to another college, and she told me to go to Fort Lewis. The reason this exists
is all because of her. And
Yeah.
like when you were saying 92, I wanted to say that was the year we graduated high school and went to Fort Lewis College and met one another
Yeah.
and realized we had the same birthday, and that's how long we've been friends. And so you've mentioned this teacher to me before, and I always got the sense that this had been a significant adult, almost like emotional process in your life even before you got to college.
Yeah, and this isn't some kind of sick
No.
reverence or like I'm still obsessed or whatever, but it is when I look back on it now, I guess more analytically. I mean, I was definitely impressionable. I mean, a country kid without a thought in his head.
Yeah.
I mean, I did have that, people, I mean, I drove a Subaru and everybody drove pickup trucks. I mean, this is Jackson County, Colorado, the poorest county in Colorado, typically a bunch of ranchers and loggers. And people had already tagged me as kind of the professor type. Mm-hmm. I didn't. I thought I was a jock, but I found I wasn't when I tried to play college football. But I remember my grandma asking, how come you're not going to Hillsdale? And I was like, oh, it's a weird, long story, but I'm going to Fort Lewis. And I could just say it was because of football. I was going there. I wanted to play football. But, I mean, the teacher steered me there. But so all this eye-opening, all this Fred Savage Wonder Years eye-opening stuff is going. And when you want sexy and you want violence, but when they are intertwined, unlike the Hippocratic Oath snake around that thing, this is it, because there's so much waking up, because that's going on. And I come back from Mexico and I get this job with the state parks. I'm working with all these older high school kids who I really admired, and then there's these CSU students who have come up to intern, and I'm hooking up with them.
Okay.
Because I'm empowered suddenly. The teacher, the best extracurricular activity really quite ever is because I'm like, oh my God.
You're confident because you've been deflowered.
And plus I realized that women want it as badly as anybody. You're just a better societal role model than dudes who can't but howl at the moon when they get the slightest urge. So I have this secret weapon, and all this is going on, and I'm rolling in this really kind of disgusting, sex-driven path. And then things start to break. Things that are happening, but are covered up. I worked forever at the Cookhouse, which is really the only business in Gould, and I mentioned them last night because that's where we got our water when we were growing up. And
where you had your first beer.
Yeah, so I had my first beer at 5.
Dishwasher, and you've carved your name into the bathroom stall.
It's still there. It's open now. It's a Mexican restaurant. It's getting great reviews. It's worth the drive.
We should go.
See a moose. Yeah. And so the guy who owned that was a nice guy, but he was also a coke addict and very violent with his wife. And that place had been such an incredible epicenter for my childhood because my dad was there a lot, and that likely caused a lot of problems. A lot of our money went to there, and thanks to their generosity, I think he drank a lot for free. And it was interesting. I remember John Elway's The Drive, and we're watching that. Like, we watched so many Bronco games there, and I'm thinking, as the game's coming to an end, I don't want to leave this ever. It's this warm spot. It's super cold outside. I think it like snowed 3 feet or something that week, which was kind of average for that area. I know I got to go home. There's going to be chores. There's going to be a drunk dad. There's going to be stress. And I never want to leave. I get this Google view of the place. This is pre-Google. And it's a warm, pulsating spot in the snow. And that is in 1987. And of course, we watched the next year they beat Cleveland 2 in 88. And I get this feeling, I know it can't last forever. And in that year, Tim is his name, has a big breakdown thing and gets violent with one of the waitresses there. This woman who everybody loved, throws her in a closet and starts covering with condiments. I mean, really just a control power thing, you know. And everybody kind of leaves. Like all the people that were there, the people driving miles to work there to be a part of it. Like, yeah, it was probably a hub for drug dealing.
Right.
But it was also just this awesome place where people could escape the blue-collar landscape and just be. I mean, yeah, everybody's driving drunk home there. I mean, my dad, like the sheriff would drink there too. And you knew you got a get-out-of-jail-free card because you saw him driving home.
Right.
I mean, my dad one night is leaving and he wrecks his truck into the ditch. And he's a very good driver, very skilled driver, and he's trying to back out. Well, he melts the engine down.
Oh, God.
And just that incident, like we didn't have a car,
right.
you know, and then we have to so there's all these things that are happening that as a kid you don't have to deal with consequences. But then in 1992, it starts to come out. You know, this waitress is pushed in the closet and covered with ketchup and mustard during business hours. People are running out of the facility. And then I'm hanging out and partying at my friend's cabin with all these older kids I worked with at the parks. And this one kid goes out to pee off the back porch, and I hear him say a woman's name. And we go out, and the owner of the cookhouse, his wife is out there, and she's beaten so badly you can't even recognize her. And she had ran from the cookhouse and was just in the woods looking for help.
Oh, God.
And her cheekbone was smashed. Her arm is, I mean, she's blood everywhere. And here we are, all these, like, partying, typically, you know, fresh off getting laid, just out of high school, confident kids.
Oh, my God.
And that is our 9/11.
Traumatizing.
You know, that, and not to belittle 9/11, but that is our own emotional 9/11. To see this woman we all knew and grew up with, and we knew had gone through stuff. I worked in that kitchen. You know, it was scary, you know.
You don't imagine to see her.
And then you see it.
Running for her life.
And you see that all the, you know, you talk about white privilege. You talk about privilege in general, and just how privileged we were. We didn't have to live that.
Yeah.
And I know some kids up there see a lot of terrible things, and they live a lot of terrible things anywhere they do. But for the majority of us that night, we see it.
Yeah.
And all the you know, everything, we change. Everything changes from hard partying, boozing to like, what can we do?
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of us go back up to the cookhouse and we're going to beat his ass. But we look in the windows and he's so off kilter that we're like, we can't mess with that. Like, we'll die. You know, like, there's 5 of us, but we'll die.
Yeah.
You know, and we get her off. And I'm immediately angry.
Good.
Because I'm like, damn it, we've all known this is happening. Forever. We've all known this is happening.
It was like the light bulb.
Yeah.
You connected it.
Yeah, and then there's guilt and grief because you're like, how have we let this go?
Yeah.
How have we let this go? I mean, this woman was, I don't know how close to death. She's fine now. And moved on and was at my dad's funeral. It was great to see her. And we have this connection now.
Yeah.
You know, this.
You helped her so much
that
night.
But so that summer of 92, and I think especially in smaller communities, well, maybe it's anywhere, but you grow up, I'm 17, I'm absolutely fucking riding the magic carpet of mayhem. And then there's this little reminder, you know, and at that time too, my brother, he graduated 4 years earlier and left. And that's another episode. 1987 is another time where things got so violent that you're just embarrassed. You're ashamed to be there. You know, you're like, other families couldn't be this way. Maybe they are, but you're just like, this couldn't be. But then to be just, you know, it's weird in this country right now. I think we're so sidetracked with convenience and addictions, whether it could be drugs, it could be food, you know.
Right.
We will just wreck the planet so that we can get a cheeseburger, you know. And what the reality starting to step into the room, you know, there's this great story. I don't know if it's Edgar Allan Poe, Mask of the Red Death, where, do you remember
Yes,
that?
yes.
Yeah, all the wealthy, there's a plague and all the wealthy people are having a party, locked down, nobody can get in, and the disease gets in and wipes everybody out. And I think there's things sneaking in, and I just always draw parallels to, that tormented woman we found in the woods.
Thank God you were there.
Yeah, I'm so happy I was there. I'm so happy we were all there.
But it was like you immediately became an adult after that incident, like, because there's nothing that can never take that memory away, and you're forever changed. And I think like something like that would do that. And I am just so glad that you were there. And I hate to say it, but it's like I've been in similar situations where for whatever reason I was put in that moment, in that place to help that person. And I just have to know that I did help them and not try to go down a rabbit hole.
Well, it's interesting because it was funny. Like, here we have her in the cabin and we're all tending to her. And here's this woman who is like an aunt to a lot of us. She was 20 years older and had, worked at the cookhouses forever and, was married into that restaurant. And all of a sudden we're there like dabbing her face and trying to figure out what to do. And what she must have felt to see these kids, that she used to chase me around the bar to give me kisses, and
it broke her heart.
And they were there. Yeah. But it's funny. There is a comedic parallel that I'm going to go to another year.
Okay.
And hopefully I can tie this well together.
You will.
But in the same place she was sitting while we attended to her, about 4 years earlier, I'd been sitting there getting attended to.
You weren't bleeding, I take it.
I was.
Oh.
I was bleeding.
Oh.
I was bleeding because I don't know if this is an appropriate segue, but I ran into a barbed wire fence.
Oh.
And it was dark, and you could walk from my house to my friend's cabin through the woods. And we're walking, and it's dark as hell. And when it's dark up there, it's a dark you can't fathom. Yeah. It's so dark. Pitch black. Walking through the woods, you can see barely the shadows of the trees from a mostly obfuscated moon. And we hear a howling.
Ooh.
And my buddy's like, what are those? I'm like, maybe coyotes. He's like, I don't know, those aren't coyotes. And immediately, both of our brains turned it into whatever horrific thing we want it to be. And it was a deeper, like, huskier howl. I don't know. But we start running. And he says to me, you're going at too much of an angle. And I'm like, I think I'm okay. But I just say that because I just want to keep running. And suddenly, I'm stopped. As if... And when something happens to you and you don't know what it is, it's... And
you're so shocked and surprised.
And I am suspended in air. And I think, am I in space? And it's because I'm just hooked on a barbed wire fence. My left breast... My arm, look at this leg. Look at this scar on my leg, so you can still see it. My favorite Minnesota Twins shirt, back-to-back championships, 87, 88. And I'm stuck there. And then Bert, my buddy.
Bert!
Yeah, you know Bert. He keeps going because he doesn't know I'm stuck there. And so I started screaming for him, which scares him even further because he's like, what happened? Does something have you? Is something gnawing on your tendons now? These are your final throws. So he comes back in the dark and finds me. And I'm torn up.
Oh.
Barbed wire is terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. And I got this huge cut on my leg, massive cut on my arm, another massive cut on my chest, and a bunch of other little things. And I go, my sweatpants are torn. I go down there, and they're having a family reunion at the cabin. Those poor people, they just wanted to live in the cabin, but I was always there. Our dogs actually wore a trail from our house to theirs to see if they were there for some treats. And so they have all this beautiful family together for a family reunion in the mountains, and I kick open the door, and I'm covered in blood. And I'm in 7th grade. And so it's a little embarrassing. They got to take off. There's a nurse there.
Oh, thank
God. His aunt is a nurse. She's like, you got to take off your pants. I'm in front of the entire family in my tidy whities, sitting in the same place where this woman would be in 4 years. There's such parallels, such innocence. And so... I'm sitting there at what would be like a time-traveling intersection of the loss of innocence, and I'm in my tidy whities in front of everybody. Bert's sister, who I admired I still do, always will. And I'm like, damn, there's nothing left now. There's nothing left. You've seen me like this. I'd rather you see me naked than tidy whities. And who even why are we doing tidy whities? You know, you just don't want, like, if you die in tidy whities, that's how they're going to remember you.
You know, but you were wearing them. That would have been better than being commando.
Well, I don't know. And so they're cleaning me up, and they've got to take me into Doc France into town.
That's a half an hour away, right?
Yeah, it is. And the funny thing is we had to go to his house to wake him up, and then he said, "I'll meet you at the clinic." We go to the clinic. While we're at the clinic, another dude shows up who ran into a barbed wire fence. It's the most like redneck, oh my God, can't you find something other to do than run through the woods moment.
I think like the universe and these, I don't know, I think that there's more to it than that. But okay, keep going. So you go to the clinic.
So go to the clinic, and he's giving me shots in this cut. He's giving me, just cleaning me up. And anyway, I get a bandage and
no stitches.
No stitches.
Okay.
Probably should have had stitches, but one guy at clinic late at night, he got me cleaned up and had to scrub this little thigh thing. Here, let me see if people can see the
scar.
This is from 1988. If I'm like a DJ now from 1988. Boz Scaggs said he was inspired by. Let's see. Okay, so this is. Let me see. That's pretty good.
I see it right here.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop. I feel like I'm peeing on this chair. A dog barking his territory. Anyway, I'm still 12. So a lot of blood, a lot of things torn up. Family reunion. I was like a Miley Cyrus wrecking ball into their happy time, and people tell that story still today, about that. But it's funny.
Wow.
But I'm sitting there tending to this woman, thinking about that,
right?
And it just highlights this terrible thing that has to happen to kids, that has to happen to all of us, the breaking of the rainbow, the Teletubbies fall to their death. It's just
this sheltered life you've had, it cracks wide open.
Right. And and yeah, exactly. Like, even if you don't think you're sheltered, and a lot of us weren't, I know you weren't, but you are.
Yeah, I was.
And you lacquer over things because you're just dumb.
Right.
In the most complimentary way.
In a naive way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember thinking that, it was, at that time, I was 17. And when I run into the barbed wire fence, it was 88. So it was just 4 years ago. It wasn't long ago.
Right.
Months ago. I was the one being cared for. And now here we are with this adult.
For this adult. It's like you're paying it forward.
Yeah, exactly. Or I don't know. It's time warp stuff. Insane.
And going back to season 1 of Jared episodes, I'm talking specifically episodes 1 and 2, where we talk about Jason and about, even this episode of you being deflowered in 92 and then having this very traumatic event happen. You went through some traumatic stuff from before you went to Fort Lewis, your first year at Fort Lewis, and then at the end of the year when Jason took his life. And, I know you and I talk about grief a lot and trauma and PTSD and stuff, but these things shape and mold us, and that is intense.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, and then you just go off to college and you get
start drinking.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, that's what everybody's doing.
Going to class.
I drank I didn't drink in high school because it made me sick, and I've got problems with alcohol. I shouldn't be drinking it. But when I got to college, the first few beers weren't terrible, but if I drank fast enough, I could just get drunk, and then this chair is gradually
I know. And in high school, I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, so when I got to college, I was like, I took advantage of it all and really got...
You went to an all-girls school?
Catholic, St. Mary's.
Oh, wow. I
think but to your point, freshman year, I know that I partied. I didn't go to class, and I got in trouble for it. But, yeah. And, I just want to thank your high school teacher, because by steering you into Fort Lewis College and the professors like Redbird and Paul Pavich,
Michelle Malik,
Farron Scott, James Waymeyer, all of these teachers that helped us cultivate our writing and our language and just our love for reading and reading other works. It's like, had you not gone there, we wouldn't be sitting here doing this. So I'm thankful for her.
No, it's crazy. When I first told the story, I told that story on an MTV show, MTV podcast.
You were on an MTV
Risk. Well, yeah, the guy who ran it was on an MTV show called The State.
Yeah. Wait, I didn't. How do I not know this?
No, it was wild. I was just at work, and my buddy Angela Daniels said, Jared, I don't want to tell you this because I want to be on this show, but I think you have this story. Because the first time I ever told a teacher story, this is a whole different story, was I was getting back at a manager who was terrible. This is the manager who had his girlfriend pretend to be a customer and write a letter.
Yep.
And I sniffed it out. I know this stuff. I've been in radio. I know the frauds. I sniffed it. And people had, at that job at name.com, I think people were just upset maybe by the perception of my success. And I had 3 different times people were pretending to be other people to try to get at me.
That's so cowardly.
And to have my own manager have his girlfriend, and he sheepishly apologized when I called him out, but I was like, that's not enough. So I'll just tell you this briefly because I know you got to go and get in there. The first time I really publicly told that teacher story with all its guts hanging out, because that went on for years, there's a company-wide event with what was a company called Donuts. It's now a digital identity selling domains. I'm not going to edit any of this out. I'm not afraid.
Boom.
But they had this thing called they were called Right Side at the time. Right Side, Inside Out. And at lunch, somebody would tell more about themselves, And, so one week we had a brilliant programmer named Dave, and he talked more about himself and very interesting. And everybody's like, oh, we got to have Jared. And that was very flattering. And that week is when I called him out because I knew it was his girlfriend pretending and to be a customer of the company saying that she didn't like my marketing. And people, that's what you're going to get when you're trying new things, but just enjoy it because that means you're paying attention.
Yeah, you're still talking about Jared Iwi.
And thank God for radio for preparing me for that.
Yeah, giving you thick
I got
skin.
murdered in radio.
Yeah.
I mean, Focus on the Family came after me, and I just had to take it as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
But so I didn't hatch the plan right away. I thought, I have plenty of charming stories about growing up in the woods. And then I was like, no, I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna see what I can do.
Good.
And so I had 30 minutes, and a guy who works there. Everybody's wonderful there at the Denver office, and we drank a couple shots because I told him I was gonna go hot. And company wide,
right?
Melbourne is on, Austin is on,
you're global.
Seattle is on,
you're
global.
Around the world.
Yeah, and they're like, Jared, tell us more about your childhood. I was here, it's interesting, and I launched right into the teacher affair.
Good.
From the first time we hooked up, exactly how that happened, and I can see this guy back there, and I'm just watching him, and he is just fuming, and he's huge dude, and we might be friends now. I don't know. And he's just leaning against the wall, glory. And I don't really want to make him mad. I just want to I just want to unsettle him.
Yeah.
Because he did that to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to send some of these yacht tipping orcas after your life. Okay? They're going to rock your boat.
That's right.
And so I told the whole story. And everybody's leading in. They're so
captivated.
Mind blown. I'm telling the whole damn story. And not like I'm Stormy Daniels in the stand getting into details. I'm just saying, hooked up with a teacher. We went to Mexico.
Right.
This called this. And it was insane. And then I ended up with this other. Blah, blah.
You're a great storyteller.
And so it's all done. And it's almost like you can actually see smoke and debris. Yeah. And so I get up. I'm like, and that's it. And everybody's like, slow clap. I'm in the kitchen, and this guy I so admire so much, this guy Ryan, comes in, and he says, Jared, I've worked here 10 years, and this is the greatest thing I have ever seen.
I love it.
So I called HR right away.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I let me just be the one to reach out. If you have to talk,
smart.
and I wasn't aggressive, and they were like, no, we loved it.
Okay.
We're just all a little taken aback. And they ended Inside Out after that. They ended it. That was the last one. So,
boom!
Anyway,
way to go out.
Why did I just tell you that? Because that was the first time I told the story, and my buddy Angela Daniels, that's where she heard it, and she was going to apply to be on the Risk podcast, which they did. They did it live at the Blue Bonnet, Blue Bird. And then so she came up to me after that and said, Jared, I'm not even going to apply. You just send that story. And then they sent some story consultants and blah, blah, blah. And it's still online there. But
I'm going to go
Bluebird was sold out. It was amazing. Rocking.
Dude, you've sold out more venues than I don't know.
Kenny Loggins. In your face, Danger Zone.
That's right.
Where are you, Cameron? So, all right. Well, you got to go.
I'm so glad that you told this story.
Yeah.
I love you. And I'm so proud of you for winning last night. I'm not surprised. This has just been an awesome hour of hearing intense and hilarious tales from Jared Iwi's pre-manhood.
Yeah.
Can I say that?
And remember in the beginning I said there was a piece of advice that I'd learned that
Yes.
helped me with moth, and it was this woman, and unfortunately probably Instagram, I'm sure, I wish it were a book I was reading, some thin paged English text. But it was an Instagram video, and she just said, don't do a thing because of how you feel at that moment.
Yep.
The reason you signed up for it, the reason you're part of it is because you know what it does for you. And you're going to get to that moment, and then you're going to want to skirt away from the edge. And I do that a lot. And so with the moth, I'm like, yeah, it's a Friday night. Why would I give up this Norman Rockwellian gorgeous family?
Right.
And but then I'm like, the family needs me to do that.
Yeah. And your wife was there.
And that and all these stories deserve light,
Yes.
And not because they're my stories, but because they're all these people's stories.
Right.
Because, maybe there's someone else that's going to get hurt. That maybe they won't, because we know how bad it can get if we don't do anything about it.
Yeah. Or talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, you just impressed the hell out of me. Just when I think I know this man, you just melt my face, and I learned something even greater.
He runs into a barbed wire fence.
And yeah, I'm literally stunned, suspended in a barbed wire fence of giddy comedic glee right now.
I almost lost my nipple here. It was right here. Right here. Got me.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I can't top that, but what a great episode. Thank you.
Yeah, and then next soon we'll have Shannon Boyle's episode
Season
2.
Episode 2.
Season 2, episode
That's
2.
right.
Oh my God, we're so successful. We have comments.
That's right. We have comments, and we have people watching it. And again, shout out to Aunt Cheap.
I know my kids and stuff would enjoy college funds, but I get comments.